Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you in another video. All right, so I've been looking at some numbers this morning in regards to how effective moving Dame Lillard could possibly be for the Portland Trail Blazers, and the options in general, they're limited. They're limited, and the thing about it is, some of the teams that I'm sure Portland would rather trade with would probably rather not have Dame Lillard on their team this year. That's what I'm thinking. Team like OKC that has nothing but young players and draft picks. They got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Giddey, J-Dub. They don't need a ball handler by any stretch of the imagination. I think looking around, ideally, if you're Portland, maybe you want to keep Scoot, Jeremy Grant, and all of those guys in a winning atmosphere, so to speak, if not a win now situation. So maybe you want to swap Dame for another guy that stays in his range, that plays a different position, so Scoot can comfortably take over the point. I look at a guy like Zach LaVine, maybe slot him in as a shooting guard. Now you got athletic players all over the place, right? But his contract isn't really favorable next to Grant's contract at all. And I start thinking maybe I could get somebody to take Grant's contract somehow. I'm already thinking about how I could shop it, but you can't move it right away. And that's really the eyesore in Portland, if you ask me. Try to move that thing for Tobias Harris' expiring contract, which is really intriguing to me. Now some of these ugly contracts that we've known of, they're on their final year. Like Kyle Lowry's, he's going to be taking, $32 million or something like that with him. Tobias' contract, as I said, is expiring. So there's some interest around the league. You look at Chris Paul's, I believe he has 2 years on his 30 in Golden State. So I know no matter what they say, they're going to be looking to move that. And, you just look around and see the league has some pretty interesting situations with contracts. And some of the contracts in place are fine, but others are like, yeah, I could afford to get rid of that. So I don't remember what Kyle Lowry's was at, but I think it's like 36 or something. Whatever the case may be, it frees up a whole lot of money in one setting. So that is intriguing, just like Russ Brooks was last year. So for some of these teams that may want to create cap space for different things they want to do in the free agency of next year, I could see them trying to get in the mix and trying to snag up one of those contracts if possible. And maybe those teams wouldn't be as willing to let go of them necessarily. But when you're considering Miami, my question to Portland is, what do you want to take back? From in my vision, you probably want to keep Jeremy Grant in some type of winning situation. As I said, you still got Nurkic on your books. To make life really easy on everybody in Portland, it would be great if they could just swap Dame for like Paul George, because the numbers match. As I said, LaVine, the numbers match. That would just be extremely convenient. I looked at the Clippers, and I know they're trying to get James Harden, but that Dame versus Paul George trade looks so easy and simple when I did it in the trade tracker. And not to say that that's ideal in any way, but these are the type of things that just get headaches out the way. And not to say that's the best way to handle this situation, but when you're considering trying to move this contract, it's not going to be ideal for really anyone unless they specifically want that player, Dame Lillard. Unless they want the player, moving that amount around is not going to be something the team wants to do. And you look at Portland and say, if you want draft picks, it's going to be even more difficult, in my opinion, to get that done. Especially if the landing spot is supposed to be Miami. Miami can make trades to get some value, because I do believe that Kyle Lowry's contract can net them something that they maybe can trade for something that maybe they can trade for something that may turn into some first round picks. You see what I'm saying? If they get absolutely creative. But they have to get absolutely creative. It gets tricky as hell. And I'm telling you, I went through every single team in the trade machine, and some of those numbers are not updated. They haven't done the trades that are going to be made because I think they can't be signed until tomorrow or today. I think it's today, but I'm not sure. But like the Atlanta-Houston trade where they sent Garuba and Ty to Atlanta, not yet done. So those things were not quite worked into the equation. Some of the trade exception numbers I don't think are right. But looking at some of those big contracts that I know are pretty accurate for where we're at, I just don't see a real easy way for them to get Dame to Miami without Portland taking back something that's entirely too small of a return, I guess is what I'll say. But again, Miami's best asset, in my humble opinion, right now is that Kyle Lowry. If you could find somebody that just desperately wants to get rid of a lot of money next summer, you may be able to get them to rattle off a trade for Kyle Lowry's contract that's expiring. So that would be what I would try to do. I think Duncan Robinson's value has improved some since he played well in the playoffs and had a pretty solid season. So maybe they could convince someone to take him in his contract. But I don't know how you turn it into anything positive. Maybe something lateral. Maybe a little more flexibility somehow, but nothing that would really make it so that Portland's happy. So I think Dame Lillard, if he locks up this situation, he's going to be stuck in Portland without an opportunity. I don't know if they'll bench him. I don't know if he'll run out there and play a role with Scoot Henderson, but Portland's hand is going to have to be forced if they're going to make a trade with the Miami Heat. I'm going to tell you right now, that's the only way I see it. It's the only way I see it. Because Miami really doesn't have anything worth having. They can make a trade straight up for Jimmy Butler because Jimmy's contract will match. But, that kind of defeats the purpose of going to Miami. Plus, from what I understand, Dame is demanding that Bam and Jimmy be there. And while he doesn't have a no-trade clause or any type of leverage like that, because he's saying rhetoric like this to the public or allowing it to be leaked or however that's being interpreted through his side of the fence to us, it still makes it so that it scares away other people from putting forth good trade packages. They're not going to outbid Miami because of it. Even though Miami's giving up garbage, they too will offer garbage because of this. And so it does the same thing as having the leverage, basically. And it will force him to Miami, and it will force Portland to make a trade with Miami that is not good for them. Unless they lock it up and just say we're not making a trade and let this situation go forward and just ruin the whole season. Ruin the start of Scoot's career, ruin the start of Dame's season, ruin Portland's beginning of their season. Everybody on the Portland team season gets ruined. Miami seasons also get ruined because they're left with nothing to in regards to free agency and how to fix their team for this upcoming year. So Jimmy's season gets ruined, Bam's season gets ruined, Tyler Hero's season, all these players, all of them, because Dame want to force his way somewhere. And it's like, man, I understand that this has been done before, so I'm not going to get on Dame in a way I wouldn't get on KD or some, Ben Simmons, other guys who force their way. AD, you know what I'm saying? This ain't the time to be getting on Dame like he invented this process. But I just think it really doesn't work when you're where Dame is in his career and you have not won a championship. And that's the thing. And KD's situation is different for whatever reason, and I think it's because people perceive KD as just an automatic champion before he actually became one. To be completely honest with you, it was almost like one of those things where if Westbrook wasn't around, KD would have won a championship at OKC. It's like that's the aura, the whole vibe around that situation. So people kind of gave him a benefit of the doubt when he left OKC and went to Golden State in some ways. Even though they were calling him cupcake this, cupcake that, it wasn't anybody really saying he didn't have a right to leave because he hasn't won anything or anything like that, because people saw championships ahead of him. They knew wherever he was going to land, he was likely going to win a championship. And he did, but it was Golden State, and the situation was, as it was. And Dame was critical of it, as many were. And so that's why it doesn't necessarily work for Dame. It's a different time in his career. You're further down the road. You have not won anything after that time period in comparison. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those situations where Dame, I just don't think he's not going to be respected for it. He's not going to be respected for this at all. Not to say that KD got all the respect in the world, but this is a different type of disrespect because you're not forcing yourself into a winning situation. That's what it really comes down to. And a lot of people may perceive it as him trying to stack the deck. I think that's a narrative that's garbage. I don't think Miami's going to be any good when he gets there. I don't. If I thought that team was going to be any good when he gets there, I wouldn't have as much of an objection to this. But I don't think they're going to be very good. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they do some good things. But the upside of what team he's going to is going to be it's going to be falling short of the NBA championship, in my humble opinion. Because again, just like Phoenix, they're going to have a hard time building because they're going to have 3 players on max contracts. If they do this the way he wants to do it, and because the free agency market is already complete, it's dried up, how are they going to build this upcoming season? Jimmy's how old? He's how old? So essentially, y'all just throwing this season away. Like, are people even thinking about these things? No, they just go out there with 3 players to try to go through an 82-game season, plus in-season tournament now, plus playoffs, and I guess they're gonna get to the mountaintop. They're gonna all be. And mind you, Jimmy and Bam just played all the way through June. They went to the finals, so they're gonna have the energy for that. Like, are people even thinking about these things? I don't think people are considering certain things at all, man. I don't know if my perception of what's going on is what it is, but I just think people aren't thinking about even a fourth of the angles they need to be considering to really win when they get to Miami. And it's like they're trying to be the bad guy because they feel like they've been wrong. It's like you ain't doing yourself no favors just the same, because you're trying to force yourself into not only being disliked, but into a losing situation. Leaving a losing situation, man. And it's like you can't convince people of that, or the media's trying to tell us you can't convince them of that, and I just don't know what's true. But I can tell you this. I think Dame should release some information in regards to him wanting to go to other teams if he hasn't already done that. Or retract his trade request and try to reconvene like KD did at a different time. That's probably the best way to go. KD said, forget it. I'm just going to start the season, play nice. You guys trade me in the midway of the season. While nobody's looking, we just send me to Phoenix. And that's what they did. Send him to Phoenix overnight. Quiet. Got it done. He's a Phoenix Sun. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he made the trade demand. No, he didn't go when he wanted to go. And it wasn't because people were being honorary. It was because he asked and it messed up the leverage so they couldn't move. You know what I mean? I don't know what Dame was doing while all this was happening. But somebody should have been informing him how this goes so that he didn't make the same mistake. And he is doing the exact same thing. And it's going to have a similar effect, in my opinion, unless Portland just caves. And maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe this is the right type of front office where you apply this type of pressure and they take back Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson for you. Because to be honest with you, I don't know what would have forced me to take on that Jeremy Grant contract. I don't know. Ain't no pressure in the world would have got me to give him a 5-year 160, 130, 160 something, I think it was. Jeremy Grant, no. Let me tell you something. I'm an NBA fantasy basketball fan. I play every single year. There's not a season in that I've played that boy ain't on the waiver wire at some point. It ain't a season. He's gonna be there at least once. He's usually owned. Usually. But every year, there's going to be a period of time when you're going to have to drop him. Why? Because he's going to be out for several weeks. Rolled ankle, shoulder, something. And when he's out there, he's pretty good defensively, but he's not. It ain't like he's somebody you can rely upon to really give you the production that you're hoping to get for the type of contract that they've committed to him, particularly the years, 5 years. And Portland, that's another reason why I think they could be the right type of stupid to just do this anyway, because they went and drafted so many wings at the same position over and over again. Ryan Rupert, Shaden Sharp, pretty much same height. I like the wing idea, but it's like some of them dudes. You got Nasir Little, and then you got, who else they pick up? If I didn't say Rupert already, Jeremy Grant. It's like they kept doubling down on these guys. It's like, yo, only a few of them can really shoot. And Shaden Sharp should be eating up all their minutes. Jeremy Grant gonna eat up all the minutes. So how do the rest of them develop? And there's several others that I didn't mention, but it's like Portland just didn't really, and they don't really have team construction on their mind because they're too busy with the circumstance at hand. They're just doing all kinds of stuff. Drafted Murray. Why'd you draft Murray when you got all these people playing that same position now? You know, to keep him from Sacramento. That's right. You got to make sure he doesn't play with his brother. So you're going to bring him in, and I guess he's going to be happy to be there because you robbed him and his family an opportunity to play with his brother. Like, I don't think Portland's even focused right now. It's like, where y'all at? Where y'all at? Where y'all at? Dame Lillard wants out. And he should, because y'all drafted Scoot Henderson. And y'all should, because Scoot Henderson's likely going to be the future in point guard positioning. He's going to be one of the main defining point guards in this league going forward if he develops properly. But where are we at? What are we trying to do with Dame? What do you want in return for him is what I would ask you, as I said earlier. Are you trying to stay a winning team? If not, what are we going to do with these bad contracts that you got all over here? You got Simons on a $25 million contract a year, $100 million, I think it is, starting last year. Of course, Grant Nurkic, I think he's on a 2-year deal. I think he's got, I don't remember where we're at, but somewhere in the high teens, I believe it is. These guys want to win. They're older guys. A guy like Nurkic, you don't expect to play more than 60 games. If that, definitely if that. And it's a situation where you got some young talent on a different type of timeline who has to develop. Lots of wings, switchable guys, some of them defensive. If you get Rupert to where he's supposed to be, pairing him next to Grant, I like your defensive situation there. Even though they can't hit a shot to save their lives, it's going to be fine because they're going to play defense and keep others from shooting. Okay, Shaden Sharp, he's going to be really highly efficient, rather. Definitely one of the best athletes on the planet. I see him developing well from year one to year two. Hopefully this is a big year for him. Okay. Some of those, some of that stuff is good. Some of that stuff is good. Other things that they have, they could probably move on from. And so that's where I'm at. It's like, okay, you're going to build a wingy team with defensive players. Do something with Nurkic, man. Do something with Nurkic. Turn Nurkic into somebody else. Do that for yourself. Do that because he frees up a lot of cap space. Maybe flip him for one of them expiring contracts. Send him to Miami. Have him playing behind Bam and bring yourself back that Kyle Lowry contract or something. That's another thing. If I'm going to do a deal with Miami, I probably am bringing back that contract just to free up cap space, to weigh it against Jeremy Grant. That'll be flexibility that I use in ever so frugal ways over the next 5 years. That's what I would do. That would come off the books, and then I would just be signing all of the best contracts possible to weigh myself against that garbage, because it ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? That's the type of you got to do it like Miami did it with Duncan Robinson. That's how y'all got to handle Jeremy Grant's contract. That's it. Unless he makes a huge jump and actually starts playing that well. You know what I'm saying? But no, you got to understand that you got a bad contract immediately and treat it as such. But you know what? Anybody who signed a contract like that ain't gonna see it that way. So Portland will suffer. the fan base will. Because they gonna keep making bad decisions, it seems, and it looks like they may cave. They may cave, and just send them to Miami for Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero or something like that. Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero contract. I can see him doing something like that. Oh, maybe get Hawkins back. Maybe force him to throw in Jovic. But see, at that point, if I'm Dame, I'm asking him. I'm keeping my foot on it and saying, nah, you can't take both of those kids. Man, because I'm telling you, Dame go there with just Bam and Jimmy. He going to be very surprised how exhausted he is probably by the All-Star break. He's going to be exhausted, bro. Because they ain't going to have nothing else doing all the dirty work. Bam and Jimmy are going to be playing so many possessions of hard, exerted defense. Because I'm telling you right now, Dame ain't. Dame ain't. So this is not ideal. This is not ideal. If I'm Miami, I'm not sure I even want to do this. While they sit up here saying, yeah, bring us Dame. Are you sure you can construct a champion around those three? I'm not sure you can. In fact, I am very sure you cannot. When I look at what the field looks like, I'm very sure you cannot. I don't doubt that those guys could win close games, but will those games be close? Nah. No, not if y'all can't put together a real team around those three. No. So I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Miami has work to do. While they're sitting here trying to make a trade for Dame, they need to be making other trades, smaller trades that create flexibility and give them some real assets. I'd strip everything down to Hawkins and Tyler, to be honest with you. Wouldn't be nothing left. I'd trade all that stuff. Jimmy, Bam, all that stuff could go. Could give me the flexibility. I'll go forward with the timeline of those two. That makes more sense to me. Do a trade with like Houston or something. Bring yourself back. Smith, Tyrese, and you know what I'm saying? What's his name? Porter. That's the type of move Miami need to be making. I don't know Dame. No, you need to turn that stuff that you got into valuable stuff that can get better. Anything else is just misguided, and it's going to leave Pat Riley a loser, man. That's it. Pat Riley trying to expedite the process of success. He's doing it backwards. He's doing it backwards. He's getting further and further away from the championship. Nowhere near it. This is not the old days, bro. You can't just put three superstars together and make it work. Especially at the end of free agency. Nah, you got to do that last year. You got to do that at the beginning of free agency like Phoenix did it. If you're going to do some Cowboy stuff like that. Otherwise, you just put it off another year. Try next year and do it like they did it. But don't do it this year. That makes no sense. None. If I were you, I'd wait a year. Dame, figure yourself out, man. See you in a year. I'm going to let that Kyle Lowry contract come off the books at 36, and then we can try to make a trade for Dame to the team that he's going to. That's how you play that. Or do it at that trade deadline. That's how you do that. Force Portland to trade him somewhere else. And if that team wants to do a deal with me, I can give him Kyle Lowry, give him Tyler Hero, and they can give me Dame. Otherwise, I live without Dame. I don't need to. I mean, why do I need to do this if I'm Miami? If I'm Pat Riley, why do I need to do this? Because if I bring that Dame Lillard contract to me, the best thing I could do for myself is retrade it, as I've already said to you guys in different ways. It's the best thing I could do for myself. Is this is the most valuable piece I got that I can move. As soon as I get it, boom, I got Dame Lillard. Philly, you want Dame Lillard, huh? Man, give me Tyrese Maxey. Give me Tobias Harris expiring contract, and let's rock. I'm gonna do that at the deadline. Like, why do I need him on my team if I can't get better? And it's gonna be evident immediately that they can't get better. So I'm a believer in Jimmy. He could do a lot of things, but that man should be exhausted by now. All the playoff series and long seasons he's had over the last 4 years, he should be exhausted. Bam, same thing. Even though he's a younger player, he's limited in some ways as well. So is he a part of a big three? We're paying for one. I don't see it being a whole lot better than Minnesota. Not a whole lot better than Minnesota. Built in a different way, but just don't have enough assets to really make it make sense, Miami. and you let a lot of those guys that were affordable who played well, they're gone. So a lot of the grit and the grind and all that stuff that made you Miami, made you that team that had them long seasons getting into the playoffs, like yeah, them are the players that you just let walk. Them are the dudes, they in Cleveland, they Lakers. You know what I'm saying? They everywhere. You brought yourself Thomas Bryant. You brought yourself, a youngster, Jaime Hawkins. They got to do a whole new thing for you in Miami. That's a whole new vibe. You got to redevelop the mindset of the defense and intangibles and things of that nature. Spoelstra's got his hands full. And now he's supposed to be just bringing in Dame. He's going to be playing the Kyle Lowry role. I kid you not. He's going to be playing the Kyle Lowry role, and they're still going to be doing pick and plug because they're going to have to find other players in other areas that are going to make them a valuable team. So that means they're still going to be trying to develop. Still going to be bringing dudes off the street. It's just how they roll. Dame is going to be Dame. He's going to get his 30 points. They're going to win games because he's on the floor, but there's going to be nights where it's just not going to be possible for him to keep leads. He's going to get in foul trouble, and they're not going to have nothing. Jimmy going to be cold, Bam going to be cold, and the score is going to be 100-something to 70-something. And it don't have to happen. It don't have to happen. But, yeah, I'm just aware. I looked at some of these other teams that maybe you could go to. But, look at like Minnesota. Maybe they want to trade Karl Towns. That's something that might be intriguing to Portland. Might be. Depends on how Portland feels about things. But that's an interesting fit with him next to Jeremy Grant's contract. Jeremy plays the defense that Karl doesn't. You got Scoot down there giving you a little Anthony Edwards flavor. So I don't know. Shaedon Sharpe really shines in that situation, I'd imagine. With him and Karl stretching the floor the way they do. I don't know. That's somewhat intriguing. I'd imagine they make some playoffs, depending on how good Scoot can get them. How good Scoot is. Who knows how good that team can contend becoming. I like that. Anthony Simons plays the 2 in that situation. Maybe the 1 move Scoot to the 2. I don't know. Maybe you move Simons in this situation for a contract that fits a little better with what it is you want out on the floor. And that should be doable because I think Anthony Simons holds some value in this league. Even at $25 million a year, he should be somebody people want. So Portland is not the worst fix in the world because Jeremy Grant is a piece that you can count on to play defense. So if anybody you got on a 5-year contract, you want somebody that can defend and do things that help you on that side of the floor. So that's the only good thing about having a piece like that, expensive as he is. He helps the right way. He ain't gonna be able to hit shots, but he'll still have nights where the 3 will fall. But as he gets older, his athleticism I'd expect will wane to some degree. So I'm just gonna assume it's gone now, even though it's not. You work that into your equation so you don't find yourself disappointed throughout the duration of the contract. But overall, I think Jeremy's gonna really help you defensively, which is why I don't hate having to build around him. I just hate having to build around him at that price. But given that Shaedon's on a rookie contract and Scoot is on a rookie contract, all I really must get rid of is Nurkic. That must go. And him at that price, I think he's like $17 million a year for 2 years. I think that's where we're at with that. I'm not sure though. That's not the craziest thing in the world if he's healthy. It's not, but it just doesn't fit well. So like I say, Vucevic in Chicago, it just don't fit. So I'm moving that, if possible. But yeah, and Anthony Simons, I just don't like him on this team anymore. Because even though he's a talented catch and shoot player and would be a great player playing off a Scoot in some lineups, defensively I don't like the lineup. He's too short to be playing shooting guard. And he's probably best with the ball in his hands as a leading guard, so he can go for 30 and 15 and show people he has Chris Paul-like offensive talent, which he actually does in some ways. So it's like, I believe in Anthony Simons. I like how he's developed over the last several years in Portland. It's a shame they didn't trust him to have the ball in his hands a little more and kind of build a more defensive team around him. Not to say that they should do that now, but they should have traded. They should have traded Dame for him years ago. You just look at Portland and mistakes that they've made. It's like, you chose to be in the hole you were in, even though you couldn't use your mid-level exception. You still could have shaked some things around in ways that would have made you a much more flexible team around Dame Lillard within that situation. You just didn't have an imagination. Held on to Terry Stotts for too long. Didn't get yourself a small forward. Kept re-signing guys you had no business re-signing. We'll blame that on the fact that you couldn't get nobody to Portland. But the reality was you weren't developing talent. You weren't drafting well. And you weren't allocating your assets in ways that made any sense, even when you were in that hole. And so all of this is like, Dame was, I look at him and I was thinking this morning as I was contemplating the conversation I was going to have here. And one of the things that came to mind was, the joke's on Dame at this point because he chose Portland, and Portland was never that great of an organization to begin with as far as making teams, building teams and putting things together and making good decisions. I mean, they found themselves with some unfortunate injuries to some key stars that put them in a hole when Dame was drafted. But he stood on his high horse like they were the most, worthy team of his loyalty, and they kept being bad every year. He wasn't delivering, and it was like he almost couldn't see where it was headed. And it's like, bro, the joke's on you. Nobody want to send you to Miami, to your preferred destination, because you got your feelings hurt by lowly Portland. Like, it's Portland, bro. Nobody told you to sit there and act like they was Lakers. You know what I'm saying? Like they was the Spurs or some decorated organization. They were not. Joke's on you, fam. You should have found yourself in a place worthy of that loyalty and stayed there, where they had assets, where they were building and processing that didn't have them in a hole to begin with. No, joke's on Dame. He should have got out of the first chance he got. But he kept taking the bag. He thought the game was set up for him, it seems. And it's like, no, bro. No. I just think this becomes a situation where I just feel like Dame has to, you force to stand on what you say, or you're forced to live long enough to see yourself have to betray that because reality catches up and makes it so that you have to make decisions against it. And that's where Dame is at, I think. I think he thought the world was a certain way until he found himself uncomfortable with his world in regards to Portland. When that rug got ripped from under him, now it was like all that unselfishness, all that loyalty. It just turned him into somebody that just wanted to do something to mess up the whole thing for everybody else. It's like, all right, things didn't go my way on my hill. I'm disappointed because I got to come off of what I believe in, so everybody got to suffer my ills. And it's like, nah. In some different way, in a much more serious way, he's doing the Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks sitting up there saying, give me 40, this, that, and the third. And in the end, he's tucking his tail. At the end of that situation, he's like, he don't even want to talk to the media. He don't even want to address the cap. I mean, it's like, damn, you really tucked your tail at the end? Like, you really couldn't stand on the consequences of what it is that ultimately you held everybody else accountable for, or what have you. You want to challenge people or what have you, but in the end, it's just like, as soon as you felt the least a bit of uncomfort, the least bit of pressure, it was just like, nah, not me. I can't handle that. It's like, wait, but we're supposed to? Or we're all supposed to stand on it because you hold us accountable from your position of privilege. And now, when you have to move on from that position of privilege, suddenly you can't stand on it? It's like, nah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And I think that's what Dame's brand is faced with. That's what his brand is faced with. I don't know if the man is faced with that, but the brand is faced with that. And it's because he's been on camera holding his loyalty on his sleeve. And it's one of those things where you got to see that all the way down. You got to stand on that. And in this situation, standing on that means allowing Portland the opportunity to send you where they need to send you, and being okay with being loyal wherever you found. You take that loyalty and you apply it where you're headed. And you don't come off of that. Just like Patrick Beverly. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere Patrick Beverly go, he's a spokesperson for that team. He gonna hold the Sixers down like crazy this year. I guarantee it. Because he that for which he takes with him stays the same. He gonna apply the same loyalty that he applied anywhere else he plays applied to the situation he's at, because he is loyal. You know what I mean? It's something that follows him where he is. He's loyal to what it is he's a part of, not just loyal to what feels comfortable and what keeps him. You understand what I'm saying? Dame seems like he's only loyal to what holds him close. Nah, you gotta be loyal to yourself so that you carry that loyalty everywhere you go. You be loyal to every team you find yourself on, because sometimes it ain't your choice what team you on. And if you find yourself on a different team, it don't mean you're being disloyal to the team you just left. It means you're now on a new team. You gotta play your loyalty elsewhere. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe you find out life's not fair, which is why you're more humble not to be critical of others in their situation when they have to deal with not so fair life situations. Instead of sitting there pointing and saying, you this, you that, you this, you that. It's like, bro, well, I think I understand now that, in my shoes, I have to make some decisions now that make it so that I'm gonna be looked at as somebody can point at, say, you this, you that, you this, you that. So you live and you learn, but unfortunately it turns you into somebody that helps you, that forces you into sufferings. Or it forces you to understand how much of a coward you are when you have to face the fire of those sufferings. So Dame is defining himself right now, and I don't think his fans like what they see. Those who are loyal to him, who expected him to be loyal to Portland, I don't think they like what they're seeing right now. Because the moment Portland needs to make a decision for itself, it's like Dame don't love him no more. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what loyalty's about. That's not loyalty. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you can see the position the other side is in. You can see the side that Portland's position is now. So it's like, if you see the position they in now and you love them and you loyal to them, then you should be able to gracefully walk away for the betterment of them, should you not? No. Because it's never about them. If it were about them, you wouldn't have took so much of the cap. And that's why I was talking the way I was talking last year. That's why, because I started seeing something that kind of betrayed that energy last year. It's like, what, you took 60 something? And they're supposed to build what around you? And you loyal. But you ate all they cap money so they couldn't get a team that's any good. The moment they got out from under the hole that you helped them get out from under, you took every bit of the cap money that would give them any flexibility. And granted, they didn't help themselves, because again, they get the rest of Nurkic and then started doing, gave some to Simons. They had no plan for him. So it's a lot of stuff they did that was no good, which is why the joke's on Dame for choosing them. They ain't no, they weren't that. So it's like, if all of this is in place, Dame should want out of there. But the last thing he should want is to go to another place that's going to have some similar problems. You know what I mean? Because that's where he's headed. They're going to have similar problems. And that cap is going to be eaten by that contract. Just like Portland's is. And that part, I think, is really important, because he is eating a great deal of that cap. And so in like 7 different ways, that could be a negative in trying to trade it, because the contract's not worth as much. In having people consider it, because it's going to be eating up so much of the cap. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of stuff. So for me, this is why Dame and Portland both have to understand that Miami's going to have to, they're going to have to give up a trade in this situation, and that all parties involved may not be pleased with. Miami's going to have to pay more than they want to. Portland's going to have to take back less than they want to. And Dame's going to have to live with that. Ain't going to be much there when he gets there, and there may not be the stuff he wants to be there for him. Like Jimmy. As I told y'all yesterday, I don't think he's going to be able to keep Jimmy on that team. At some point in time, you got to understand that Miami doesn't have the value. They just don't have it. Jimmy is that value for you. He is it. Tyler Hero and the expiring contracts of Lowry may translate. It may translate. If they add a little more to it, it may translate. But that depends on how much people value that money coming off the books with Lowry's contract. That's the determining factor. If you could find a team that values that in a very high manner, you may be able to pull this off. But if they lowball you for that particular contract, I don't know how you do this without moving Bam or moving Dame or Jimmy, one of the two. So that's what it really comes down to, man. I'm trying to help whoever's watching me be patient in regards to if they're waiting for Dame to go to Miami. You're gonna have to wait unless Portland does something they have no business doing, which they've already done once this week. So who knows what the odds are of them doing something like that right now. But if you're a Portland fan, man, your loyalty to that team is the same as Dame's. Until they get it together, it's empty, man. I hate to tell y'all this, but it really is. Sometimes you just look at situations and you could just tell, man. You got two fantastic young players. Hopefully you're able to keep them in Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. But honestly, man, I don't know what's going on with that front office. And the Jeremy Grant contract is a sign that people need to get the hell out of there, bro. I kid you not. It is a sign people need to leave. There shouldn't be nothing but Shaedon and Scoot left. Seriously, if people are serious about making that thing a real winner, that's exactly what needs to happen. So I don't know, man. When you got two assets like that, you take things like this very seriously. When people say what I'm saying, because you lose those two, and there's no telling how long it's going to be before you get talent like that again. And so I done watched Portland make so many bad decisions in my lifetime. It's time for them to do something right for themselves. And that means leaving Dame wherever you find the best return for him. I'm just going to tell you right now, whoever gives you the best return for Dame Lillard, that is honestly where you need to send him. And I feel like a hypocrite saying that, because I don't know how many times people have said stuff like that about players I've wanted on my team, away from my Lakers. But this is one of those legitimate times that I think that the team needs to really do that. When I look at what they've done, and I say my lifetime, I'm talking about 40 years. Ever since they didn't draft Michael Jordan in '84, we're talking about. No, they really need to get this part of their era, and they need to get this right. And it ain't got nothing to do with being loyal to somebody other than themselves. They got to get this right, man. You know, and maybe we value championships. Maybe we just value high success, but I'm a Laker fan, man. I am a Laker fan. Dame Lillard has won you no championships, Portland. Whether you consider it his fault or not, whether he was capable of it or not, the type of loyalty you're giving him, you're mimicking organizations' loyalty for players who've won multiple championships. It's a behavior that you're trying to display. It's a loyalty. But that loyalty needs to be applied to excellence, friends. I kid you not. And if you're not able to establish that excellence, that loyalty is misplaced, you're not truly embodying what it is that we're actually celebrating when we celebrate Magic, Kareem, Kobe, Shaq. You don't understand what it is we're actually feeling when you celebrate somebody who hasn't delivered. And that's something that needs to be articulated clearly, because I think that's what it is. It's like a culture thing. It's like, we've had our guy, and he's been here, and you've had no success. And you're honoring that. And while that's loyal, and that may be generally pointed in the right direction, it's that you haven't been successful that you need to make changes. It's that you haven't won championships is why you don't need to be applying loyalty this way. Instead, you need to be applying different methods to get that success. You're misguided completely. And that's what needs to be understood. And I'm saying this from a position of privilege, but also from a position of being able to study this from a championship's perspective, from a champion's perspective. As a fan of a team that's won many championships in my lifetime, also made many, many mistakes. When you're celebrating and trying to stay loyal and making bad decisions on behalf of a guy who's never won championships, you're doing so from a position of disadvantage just by the sheer nature of you having never won anything. Your foundation isn't where it needs to be. The experience you need to make yourself better isn't coming your way, and you're celebrating that. That's what needs to be really embodied and understood in the situation. So while Dame is asking that you do so, with all due respect to him, that's not what's best for Portland. They need to be getting better as an organization, making moves that bring them champions, so they can experience the success of what it is they should actually be celebrating, which is excellence. And that's what Dame should be seeking out as well, which is why I think he should be going to San Antonio, so he can really be taught what that's really about by somebody who really know what it's about, and Greg Popovich. And granted, Spoelstra does too, but he's not going to be left with a whole lot if he's left with you, Dame. And it ain't disrespect, that's the damn contract, man. It's reality. So that's the truth. That is the truth, man. People don't know how to win. People don't know what excellence is really, like it really is. And they want to be celebrated for not reaching the mountaintop, and they want to be loyal to people who can't reach the mountaintop, and none of this makes any sense. Not in the grand scheme of winning. And I'm sorry, but as somebody who watched real champions, this is what they did not do. They made sure that they had the success before they asked for any type of loyalty or any demands. They had to show you that they were worth that. It couldn't be nobody at the end of the year winning trophies on them every season. Every season, they got the trophy. Somebody else got it. And you mad at the people who got it, right? Because they took another path so that they could get it while you don't have it. Like, that's been the problem. And so, I think this could be a good thing for Dame Lillard if he doesn't make a bad decision. Because I think if he makes the right one, he could probably end up a champ. If he takes the humble route from here, like he's been taking his whole career, he'll be respected. But the way he going about it, like a scorned, person that ain't, got what they want, so they gonna mow down everything in front of him. It betrays everything. I mean, everything he stood for. Everything. And it's like, all you gotta do is just be humble now and still stay solid and see it through. Portland don't want me, cool. It's tough. I stand on it though. Let's go. Where we headed? That's the only thing I would have expected from Dame Lillard at this point. Where we headed? Send me somewhere where I can be the guy I need to be. Who has it? Wembanyama? Yeehaw, put on the Spur hat. Is it Boston? Let's go. That's what I expect from Dame. Not this diva type, I only want to go to Miami. It's like, so that's what I was detecting last year when I was complaining about him signing that damn contract. I was picking up on this. So look, man, that's all I got to say about it. I ain't perfect. We could talk about what's wrong with me for twice as long as this. You feel me? Like, honestly, that's not an issue. But when you look at what's going on there, it's just like, yo, this guy is going to find himself even more unhappy because of how he's handling this. That's really my purpose in talking. It's like, I can see where this is headed, and it don't look like it's going to end well at all. Even though Miami's won in some very, very unorthodox ways, you're putting them in a much greater disadvantaged position to do that if you don't absolutely do the impossible. And asking your body to do the impossible, when we've already seen the growing injury, we already know you're on the other side of 35, this does not make much sense. And I tell you, man, if he's thinking like I'm thinking, you want to go somewhere where there's a bunch of rookie contracts, where everybody next to you is very, very good at a very inexpensive level. That way, they can absorb your contract, still be talented as hell, and still bring themselves as much talent that the flexibility of other teams would allow them while still absorbing $63 million of Dame's contract. That is the only real way I see him being able to be on a good team. It's the only real way he gonna be on a really good team is if he just finds himself where Paolo's making $10 million for the next 3 years, Franz making $7 million for the next 3 years. You see what I'm saying? These are the guys he wants to be next to so that they can be really, really good, and you could bring him somebody else, and they still got a good team. All they got to do is, move some of them picks they got, maybe move on from some of them guards, maybe have to move on from that beautiful Carter $15 million contract, and they could probably bring themselves Dame Lillard and still have all kind of stuff, including Franz and Paolo, on rookie contracts. 2 running mates that are going to average probably 20 points a game next to his 25. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of situation that Dame should, in theory, want to be a part of. All they got to do is move a bunch of young guards like, Suggs and Anthony and possibly Markelle, who should probably be great in a trade like this, sent in the third direction to make up all the difference and the equity necessary to make Portland whole, man. And so these are the type of things I'm like, man, if Dame really want to be loyal to Portland, then that's the type of move you're going to demand to. That's where you're going. You're going to the other part of Florida. And then from there, in theory, your team will be very good. Because they're going to be getting better as you age. So for whatever it is you can't do, they can. That's how an old man's supposed to age, man. Not next to older guys who can't make it through the damn 82-game season. Y'all, all 3 of y'all just huffing and puffing with hands on your knees, looking at guys like Franz and Paolo flying past you. That's your future. Bam, Jimmy, and Dame are watching guys fly past them. Think about it. These guys are older, man. They're not even really that athletic. How the hell they gonna deal with guys that are really legitimately deep teams? Like, I don't know how the hell they're gonna deal with that. I don't know how the hell they're gonna deal with that. And so that's what it really comes down to. He asking Spoelstra to do a lot, just so that he can have a late game heroic scorer who probably ain't even gonna be in those type of situations because the scorer ain't gonna be that damn close, as already said. So, hey, I hope people are hearing me. I know I sound heck of pessimistic about certain things that people really want to do, but it's just an opinion that's based on a lot of years of watching this stuff very closely. And I just tell you, man, I don't want to see this head down a horrible path from here for Dame or the Portland Trail Blazers, and I don't see it ending well for either one of them unless they both get their head on straight. Both of them. And Portland needs to be considering resetting all this garbage they've been doing. Simons, Nurkic, Grant all need to go. Those contracts are bad for you, Portland. Get those contracts out of there for yourselves. That's what needs to happen. And then fire the people who had those contracts signed. And if it's the owner, hire somebody who wants to do something that you don't want to do, basketball-wise. Because your decisions aren't good, man, if these are the things you wanted to do. So that's just what I have to say from a fan's perspective. Like I said, Lakers for life. I don't care nothing about none of these other teams, really. But as a fan of the NBA, I hate seeing things done this way. I hate seeing stuff done this way. And as a human being, as a black guy particularly, I hate seeing brothers go down a path where they don't get to stand on their laurels because they were confused about what they were standing on as it pertains to the foundation of what they were standing on. Portland wasn't nothing to stand on, bro. The loyalty was cool. Application of loyalty is cool, but you got to know where you were drafted. Know where you've been drafted, young players. Sometimes these teams have made great decisions and you're in a great spot and you may not think you are. And damn it, you're about to leave somewhere that's really good to go somewhere really bad just because it's a nice spot far away. Other times it's the opposite, and you gotta know that. You gotta know that, and it's gonna be on you to turn that franchise around. But it's also gonna be on you to keep a close eye on that franchise and make sure they're doing good things. Because if they're not, and you're standing on them, and you're taking their bag, and you think it's all good, and you're not delivering all that's leading up to where Dame's at, all that. So you can't just take every bag. You got to know how to invest in the team a little bit. Invest in yourself, and the risk got to be weighed against the reward. All of this has to be in mind, man. You can't just sheepishly walk through your career and expect not to be ridiculed and criticized and picked apart. You know what I mean? Some of that stuff ain't even going to be your fault. It ain't going to even be within your control. But that is exactly how we're going to talk about it. Literally. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the truth. So that's why you got to cover your backside, I think, as my mother used to tell me. And make sure that you're not selfish in nature, man. Always check to make sure that you're standing on what it is you truly want to stand on. Because I think Dame didn't realize how selfish he ultimately truly is, man. His actions speak much louder than words, bro. Much louder. And maybe he don't like that. Maybe he finds out he doesn't like that within himself. But you got to be real about it. Once you identify it, you got to be real about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, hey, I'm not able to stand on what I believe in right now. And I got to find it in myself to recalibrate who I want to be before I ruin my reputation. Because that's exactly what he's going through. I think, or he's allowing some people talk him into being in that position, one or the other. But either way, this ain't the Dame Dollar we have grown to respect in both rap and on basketball courts. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we speak the way we do in regards to this, because I don't understand what I'm looking at. And when somebody's an example with a loud voice to tell people to stand and be loyal, and they betray that, I think others follow that, man. I think people follow that, and that's really bad, to say the least. And that's why I can sit up here and talk about it for an hour. I think that's exactly why I can sit up here and talk for an hour about this, because I just think that Dame is someone people truly respect. And whether this is within his control or not, he needs to snatch control of this situation and stand on what it is he needs to stand on, and admit some things that maybe we already see that maybe he ain't ready to admit about how unwilling he is to be uncomfortable to stand on what it is he truly wanted us to stand on when being critical of others. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.